For a long time, I thought quitting alcohol was hard because there was something wrong with me. I thought that maybe I lacked discipline or willpower, or maybe that I just enjoyed it more than other people seemed to. But looking back now, I honestly don't think that was the problem at all. What actually made quitting alcohol difficult was that I was trying to stop without really understanding what alcohol was doing to me. I'm talking mentally, emotionally, and even socially. Don't get me wrong, it didn't suddenly become effortless, but once I understood more about alcohol, it stopped feeling like a constant fight, and it made a massive difference. So what I want to share are 3 things that genuinely changed how I saw alcohol, and also why stopping eventually became simpler than I ever expected. As always, welcome back to the channel if you've watched any of my videos before. If not, welcome. My name's Edward Wilson and I make alcohol-free content for people who are sober curious or rethinking their relationship with drinking. Before I get into the first truth, I want to talk about something that I think a lot of people don't really say out loud enough when it comes to quitting alcohol. If you're watching this, there's a good chance you're not at rock bottom. You're probably not waking up every morning thinking your life is falling apart. You're functioning, you're getting to work, you're showing up for people. From the outside, things probably look fine. And that's often what makes this so confusing. Because the struggle isn't always loud. Sometimes it's really quiet. It's that low-level dissatisfaction, that feeling that you're constantly running at about 70% of your potential, that you're never fully rested, never fully present, never quite as sharp or calm as you know you could be. For me, that was one of the hardest things to explain to people. I didn't have, say, one dramatic moment that made everything obvious overnight. It was more like a slow realization that alcohol was taking more than it was giving, even when it didn't look like it from the outside. And that can be frustrating. Most people around you won't see it. They'll say things like, "You don't drink that much," or "You're fine," or "Plenty of people drink more than you." And they're probably right, technically. But this journey isn't about how much anyone else drinks. It's about how it affects you. I also think we underestimate how much mental energy goes into constantly negotiating with alcohol. Deciding when you'll drink, how much you'll drink, when you'll stop, whether last night was too much, whether tonight will be different. That back and forth conversation can quietly run in the background for years. And even before I quit, I was already tired. Not just physically tired, but tired of thinking about it all the time. If you're in that place where you're constantly questioning your relationship with alcohol, that alone tells you something. People who are completely at peace with it usually aren't Googling videos like this or watching someone talk about quitting. So if part of you feels a bit unsettled watching this, or slightly uncomfortable, or even defensive at times, I actually think that's normal. It doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It often means you're starting to see things more clearly. Quitting didn't suddenly make life perfect for me. It didn't remove every problem or turn me into a different person overnight. But what it did do was remove a layer of noise. And once that noise was gone, a lot of things became easier to see and easier to deal with. So as I go through these truths, I don't want you to think of them as rules or instructions. Think of them more as shifts, small changes in how you can see alcohol and how you can relate to it. Because for me, quitting didn't feel easier because I suddenly had more willpower. It felt easier because my thinking started to change. And that brings me to the first truth. So truth number 1, moderation was harder than quitting. For years, I believed moderation was the goal. It sounded responsible, and I've seen other people being able to control themselves when they drink. So I thought naturally that I could as well. And I genuinely tried to do it properly. In the past, I've set rules. I've had certain limits, certain days and certain occasions where I've allowed myself to drink certain amounts. I've even told my wife in the past that I'll only drink around her. I've given it all the spill. But what I didn't realise at the time was how much mental space alcohol still took up, even when I wasn't drinking that much. I was constantly negotiating with myself, thinking ahead, replaying the last time, planning the next drink. Alcohol was still very much in my head, even on the days I wasn't drinking. And that constant sort of low-level negotiation was exhausting. And what eventually became clear to me was that saying no once was far easier than saying maybe every day. Once I stopped completely, the noise quietened down. I wasn't weighing things up anymore, the decision had basically already been made. And that simplicity was a huge relief. Truth number 2. Alcohol was a solution that created the problem. I didn't drink because I hated my life. I drank because I wanted relief, to switch off, to take the edge off the day, to feel calmer, more relaxed, more present. And sometimes, don't get me wrong, alcohol did deliver that, although briefly. But what I couldn't see while I was in it was that the thing I was using to cope was quietly making everything harder underneath the surface. My anxiety wasn't random, my low moods weren't coming out of nowhere, my lack of motivation wasn't just laziness. Alcohol was basically lowering my baseline. When I stopped drinking, I felt steadier and way more emotionally consistent. And once I experienced that, it became very hard to justify ever going back even occasionally. The tricky thing about alcohol is that it doesn't feel like the problem. It feels like the solution. So you never really think to question it. And because the effects are subtle, it's easy to miss the connection entirely. I now know that alcohol wasn't helping me deal with life. It was making life something I felt I needed to escape from in the first place. So truth number 3, discomfort is part of the adjustment, not a sign you're failing. One of the biggest misconceptions about stopping drinking is that once you make the decision, you should immediately feel better. And when that doesn't happen straight away, it's easy to assume something's gone wrong. I definitely felt that in the early days. There were evenings where nothing was technically wrong, but everything just felt a bit flat. Social situations where I felt slightly out of step. Weekends that felt unfamiliar because I wasn't basically numbing myself in the usual way. And for a while, I interpreted that discomfort as a problem. But what I've come to understand is that discomfort is often just a sign that your nervous system is recalibrating. You're learning how to be present in situations you used to soften with alcohol. Remember, that's not failure, that's just adjustment. Alcohol had been filling gaps for me. It smoothed over boredom, took the edge off awkwardness, and blurred emotions that were uncomfortable to sit with. When it was removed, those gaps didn't disappear. I just sort of noticed them more clearly. And that took some getting used to. What helped was realising that I didn't need to fix or escape that discomfort. I just needed to let it pass. Over time, things that initially felt awkward started to feel like normal again. Conversations flowed without needing a drink, evenings felt quieter but also more grounded. My reactions became less impulsive. The key shift for me was understanding that feeling uncomfortable didn't mean I was doing sobriety wrong. It meant I was just in the early process. Early in learning how to sit with myself, early in building the new baseline, early in discovering what actually worked for me without alcohol. And once I stopped fighting that phase, it became much easier to move through it. Basically, what I'm saying is stopping drinking didn't necessarily fix my life. It just removed a lot of friction, a lot of unnecessary noise, and a lot of sort of self-inflicted difficulty. And once I stopped seeing alcohol as something I was giving up and started seeing it as something I was stepping away from, everything changed. So if you're struggling right now, it doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean that you're broken. It just might mean that simply you haven't been given the full picture yet. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more content like this, please hit the like and subscribe. Please feel free to comment below, and I'll see you in the next video.